So when someone like the banker Stuart Kirk warns that unsubstantiated, shrill, apocalyptic warnings are always wrong, why be surprised when Figueres says the remarks are abhorrently outrageous? As Darwell rightly argued, quote, 400 years ago people were burnt at the stake for believing the wrong things about religion. Today they get fired for questioning the climate change catechism, unquote. But back to Figueres. She demanded HSBC immediately cleanse itself of Kirk's remarks and fire the climate heretic. Kirk's sin against the climate change alarmists took place on Thursday the 19th of May. By Monday the 23rd, HSBC had suspended their senior banker Stuart Kirk for saying unsubstantiated, shrill, apocalyptic warnings are always wrong. This is the woke and cancel culture world we have entered with climate change. Remember, it was global warming once, but when the planet didn't warm to suit the devotees of the new religion, they changed the so-called scientific phenomenon to climate change. But they won't brook disagreement, they won't brook argument or debate, and they reach for the punitive response. As Darwell wrote, Kirk's problem is that he's telling the truth, one contrary to the central tenet of environmental, social and governance investing, which holds that it's the duty of finance and business to save the world from a planetary catastrophe, unquote. And so we see, as Matt Canavan and I have talked about regularly on this program, central banks and financial regulators using every regulatory weapon available to them, quote, to suppress investment in fossil fuels and direct capital towards renewables like wind and solar, unquote. Well, Rupert Darwell bells the cat, and we're seeing this here in Australia. Challenge the climate change religion, and you're called a denier, and your views have no currency. But as Matt Canavan said to me last night, we won't be giving up. The hoax will eventually be revealed. As the writer Rupert Darwell said, as Stuart Kirk has discovered, that's the HSBC banker, telling the truth is much more dangerous than playing it safe by recycling routine falsehoods about climate risk and existential threats. Distorted, alarmist climate reporting is the norm and getting worse, unquote. The Australian William Kinnenmonth was the former head of the National Climate Centre within the Australian Bureau of Meteorology. He'd know something, wouldn't he? He warned us, quote, climate science is not settled. 4 decades of observations highlight that computer models have exaggerated the influence of anthropogenic emissions of carbon dioxide. He said the Paris Agreement has been negotiated from faulty premises, unquote. Yet the banker Kirk gets suspended for rightly arguing unsubstantiated, shrill, apocalyptic warnings are always wrong, unquote. We must not be intimidated from presenting the alternative view to this climate change religion and highlighting the damage that it will do to individual and national economic well-being. And don't forget, our kids are being brainwashed about all of this in the classroom. Finally, remember, this is about reducing the emissions of carbon dioxide, which is 0.04% of the atmosphere. They're taking us for a ride.